with me Jennifer and Kallie from the Center for Bioethics and Culture Network, and then Dr. Amy Fisher, who practices here in the Twin Cities. You guys can introduce yourselves.
Well, I'm Jennifer Lahl, and I'm a nurse by training, pediatric critical care, and I have a master's degree in bioethics.
My name is Kallie Fell. I am the executive director at the organization that Jennifer founded called the Center for Bioethics and Culture. I am also a perinatal nurse and have a master's in reproductive physiology as well.
I'm Amy Fisher. I'm an obstetrician gynecologist with Alina Health here in the Twin Cities and work for Penny George Institute for Health and Healing there.
And like I said, what we've been talking about is the topics of surrogacy, assisted reproductive technology, and then offering them a better path forward through restorative reproductive medicine. Can you guys tell us a little bit, why should we have concerns, ethical, moral concerns about these topics in general?
Well, as a nurse, my biggest concern is maternal-child health, and I think the data is pretty clear that these technologies are not without risk to both women and children. And those risks are short-term, they're long-term, they're financial risks, they're exploitative risks that the women exposed to doing all kinds of things mandated by contracts. And I just think that that's not in the best interest of maternal-child health.
We've been letting a multi-billion-dollar industry call the shots, and it's about time they be held accountable, whether through reporting of accurate data, whether it's through good research, which again, Jennifer just said, we're already seeing that this is risks to maternal and fetal health and medicine, and I think it's time we hold them accountable.
What's it been like? What's your experience been at the Capitol today?
Well, I think the groups that we have met with, whether they be the roundtable discussions or in the hallway, everybody's been very interested and curious, asking really good questions. I've not been met with any hostility, which has been kind of refreshing because this is a controversial space that we work in. Usually it's a hostile environment. And I just love working with state lawmakers. It's just more of a relaxed feel than when you're on Capitol Hill and everybody's go, 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 rush, rush, rush. It just seems like it's been a really good time to meet and talk with people.
We've just been really encouraged by the questions of the legislators and the lawmakers. I just think it's a really important time right now for Minnesota and for the states, and I'm just really encouraged by their curiosity on the topic, especially being such a controversial topic, and their eagerness to want to learn more.
And one of the things that you guys said this morning that really struck me was when you think about IVF, you think about maybe the happy couple at the end that has a child, but what about that child during the process? Can you talk a little bit about the difference in air and temperature and oxygen that you were sharing with legislators this morning?
Yeah, there's an important study that came out in the Journal of Human Reproduction, and it really talks about the unnatural environment that this early embryo is exposed to for about 2 to 3 days before it's either implanted or frozen. The article points to the fact that we breathe room air, but if a baby, a fetus, an embryo is growing in its mother's womb, it's exposed to 100% oxygen versus 20%. The changes in temperature and light, the toxin in the environment and the petri dish that this little embryo is being nourished by, which is also very natural. And so they kind of just raise the question, because we already know that most IVF fails. It has a high failure rate. So they're just sort of wondering, is it some of these factors that are creating some of the problems we're seeing? And also the fact that we now know through the research, as Kallie spoke to all day today with your lawmakers, the risk to children created through IVF and assisted reproductive technology.
Yeah, Kallie, what are some of those risks?
Sure. Well, the risks are really many to both mothers and to babies, specifically to babies, the risk of being born prematurely, which also carries a whole subset of problems afterwards. Babies that are born very low or low birth weight. Babies can have higher incidences of stillbirth, higher incidence of congenital malformations such as cleft palate, issues with the developing heart and vascular structure. There are a great deal of things that are coming out just on a physical side of things, let alone now that IVF has been around since the 70s, and these children are starting to become adults, and now there are also social and emotional implications as well, and risks who am I, identity struggles, how did I get here, those types of things.
Right, and I think one of the things I run into when I talk to people about this, what's the difference between IVF and adoption, or surrogacy and adoption? Can you speak on that? Kallie has a podcast that she talks to a lot of people who have gone through this before, and I know you have a lot of stories in that space.
Yeah. Adoption is, or can be, a solution to an already broken situation. It's finding a solution to someone who already has maybe a broken start or has been separated from their biological parents or family members. IVF, especially surrogacy, intentionally creates a situation where a child is separated from maybe its birth mother, egg donor, sperm donor, its biological origins. You're intentionally severing very important physiological bonds. And so, yes, I've on my podcast had men and women who are born through egg and sperm donation. I say donation in quotes because it's buying and selling actually. And they talk about the genealogical bewilderment that we know that kids who are born through adoption sometimes face. Colorado is the first state to actually outlaw anonymous sperm or egg or gamete donation, which we know it's not anonymous, right? 23andMe and Ancestry have paved the way that, so we're catching up with that. But yeah, I've chatted with people that really struggle with their conception story, with how they started.
There's just so many concerns we could keep talking about with all of these practices, and a lot of things that people wrestle with. I've been talking with legislators beyond just today about some of these issues, and also just talking to Catholics, and I think there's a lot of questions, but at the end of the day, do we really want to be in the business of buying and selling children? That's what this is. And especially when you talk about surrogacy and different types of families who are trying to engage surrogacy, or even single people, you might have 1, 2, 3, maybe even 4 different people involved in the creation of a child. Is that in the child's best interest? No, it's not. And that's what we want to bring to light today. We also want to talk about a better path forward. We can't just oppose something here at the Catholic Conference. You always hear us propose things as well, offer our legislators something positive that they can look into or they can do, and that's why we have Dr. Fisher with us here to talk about restorative reproductive medicine. I think Dr. Fisher would probably just say real medicine or better health, but why don't you tell us a little bit about what that is?
Yeah, so there is a different way of looking at women's health, looking at fertility. And in standard medical practice for many years, infertility has been treated like an acute illness. When we don't want to get pregnant, the lack of fertility is sought by using birth control. When we do want to get pregnant and it doesn't happen, then we treat it with infertility treatments. And that has evolved to a point with the IVF protocols to really minimize the amount of background workup that an infertile couple will receive before they are referred on for assisted reproductive technologies. And the cultural story has become such that IVF is a fail-safe method. There are studies that show that couples entering into their own IVF cycles have greater predictions for their own success in delivering that live birth than what the statistics actually show. And they may even actually know what the statistics are, and yet they have more hope for themselves that it will work out for them. But on average, we're looking at success rates that are around 25%. Maybe slightly higher than that for those who are under the age of 35, and at the age of 49% success rate of live birth. So what do we do for those couples that want to achieve a pregnancy and don't want to submit themselves to these IVF protocols because of religious reasons, moral concerns, health concerns for themselves, for their babies. What about the couples that have actually been down that road and it didn't work? Do we have anything else to offer? And that's where restorative reproductive medicine comes in. And it's a recognition that men and women are fertile together. Neither is fertile by themselves. They are fertile as a couple. And so both sides of the couple need to be addressed. The same 4 factors that impact fertility for men impact fertility for women. So in the current literature, we're finding live birth rates with restorative reproductive medicine techniques for couples that are under the age of 35 that are between 30-40%, and for all comers in that 40% range.
That's so interesting, and they've been talking a little bit about the cost. Just to note that one cycle of IVF could cost anywhere between $15,000 to $30,000, and on average you might need 3 cycles. So you're talking about $45,000 to $120,000 to maybe have a 25 to 30% or 9% if you're older chance of having a child. That's a lot of money. When perhaps you could look at something like Dr. Fisher's pointed out that is going to have a much lower cost and higher success rate and allow you to achieve pregnancy naturally, which is probably what a lot of the couples are looking for in the first place, is to be able to have children on their own without all this technology added in. So we had, like I said, we've been meeting with legislators all day. We have some more meetings today, and then we have some meetings tomorrow too. Callie's going to be speaking at, and so am I, at the Student March for Life over at St. Agnes for the Catholic high school students, and then we have a variety of other things they'll be doing on their visit, and then we'll be able to, at the Catholic conference, continue these conversations after their visit. We've been talking about these for a number of years, and I'm sure they're going to continue to come up this session, so this won't be the last you'll hear about surrogacy and assisted reproductive technology, but we're so grateful for all 3 of these ladies for taking the time, braving the cold. It started out today at negative 20 degrees, and these ladies are from California, so it's a little chilly for them, so we're grateful for them braving the cold and educating our lawmakers and educating Catholics on these issues. Thank you.
Thank you for having us.